Stephen A. Smith and talking about Lane Kiffin. He ends up taking a dump on Oxford, Mississippi, and playing the race card and saying that Lane Kiffin needs to move on to Gainesville or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that Oxford, Mississippi is the worst place. Or anyway, I'll let Stephen A. do the talking. Play SOT 7.
What? Oh, stop it. Just stop it. Leave that man alone. Y'all leave Lane Kiffin alone. We not going to do this. We're not going to do this to this man, okay? Yeah, listen, you and I, look, I'm going to bring it home, all right? He's in Oxford, Mississippi, okay? Let's get this out the way. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say, somebody, y'all can't say it. Don't you dare say it, Paul. Don't you dare say it, Dougie. Don't you say it, Shay. Leave it to me. I'll say it. The brothers ain't trying to come to Oxford, Mississippi, for the most part, compared to Gainesville or Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Let's just call it what it is, okay? You look at the job that Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss, it's phenomenal. The man has won 74% of his games over the last 6 years. Ole Miss is they're in the picture. They could win a national championship. Lane Kiffin, his personality, his cachet, it ain't Nick Saban he got to worry about. He's got the potential to be another Nick Saban, but it ain't going to happen at Ole Miss. Not for years down the road to come. No. But Gainesville? At the University of Florida, but Baton Rouge, at Death Valley, LSU, that's a different animal. I'm not saying that you don't have black players and stuff like that on the team. Of course you do. You just showed it with Pat McAfee's show. We understand it. But I'm just talking about from a recruiting standpoint, in terms of longevity, establishing a sustained level of success for many, many years.
I get his shtick, and I know it's been greatly rewarded. But at some point, ESPN should just be embarrassed. It's Oxford, Mississippi. I think for a black person, and they're not going there, I think 40% of Mississippi is black. What city hasn't the mainstream media framed as being racist? If he were going to play at the University of Indianapolis, you know how racist Indiana is. Why would anybody want to be in Indiana? If he were going to Boston College or Boston University, you know how racist Boston is. Why would he want to go to that area of the country? This is just like a throwaway line. He builds it up like it's a big deal. It's playing the race card. I got to give Paul Feinbaum credit. He was halfway offended by it and mentioned it on his own radio show. But anyway, your response, your thoughts here to Stephen A. Smith.
Okay, so we're in 2025, right? That's what my calendar says.
Yes.
Not 1965. Okay? Here's the reality about Oxford. It's a really good college city. And I would say this, and I think Deion Sanders would vouch, given his decisions. You would much rather be in Oxford than Jackson, Mississippi. And the reality is, Gainesville is a good college town, but there's a particular demographic numbers. They are what they are. So does Baton Rouge, I'm assuming. Why is Stephen A. Smith assuming that those other two fine college towns are Harlem? Really? Why is he assuming that? The other thing is, I hear this a lot about why would anyone want to play for SEC schools? And they always bring up the history of racism and whatever. Black football players flock to that conference. They do. It's the best football league. They pay a lot of money. The perks are incredible. And as Stephen A. Smith said, when I look at Mississippi, I've watched them a lot with Trinidad Chamblee, great quarterback. Jason, they don't lack for team speed. They have a lot of team speed, if you know what I mean. Okay, they just don't have a lot of gritty guys. In fact, to be a good football team in this particular part of our history, you can't have all white guys. And it's the silliest notion. But once again, that is Stephen A. See, this is where Stephen A. loses me a lot. He'll say certain things that he knows politically go against his base. This is his way of backtracking and getting his pass back to the cookout.
DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, a couple of wide receivers that played at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's the other thing that bothers me about this. Stephen A. is talking about Oxford, Mississippi. I would bet virtually every dime that I have he's never been there. I would bet a lot of money he's never been to Gainesville, Florida. I'd bet a significant amount of money he's never been to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He never was in a real way. I think he covered Temple University basketball maybe for a year and a half. I don't know. But he was never on the college football circuit, on the college basketball circuit, to where he's been to any of these places that he's smearing. He knows nothing about Oxford, Mississippi. All he knows is Mississippi. And the brothers ain't really wanting to go to Mississippi, and what he's basically arguing is where 40% of the black people, the state has the highest demographic of black people in America, the brothers really don't want to go there. Think it through, Stephen A. And look, maybe he's right. Maybe black people don't want to be in the blackest state in America. Is that the point you're really making, Stephen A. Smith? Say it with your chest out, as the young people like to say. This is, I can't stand the guy, can't stand the conversation, can't stand the fact that people have to nod their head and play along and act like Stephen A. Smith is some sort of intelligent expert on any sports-related thing. He's just not. Last thing, Stephen, I want to perhaps spend a little bit more time here. I find this fascinating going into, here's the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe. Are they 8-2, I believe? One of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best teams in football. And there seems to be a lot of controversy surrounding Jalen Hurts. Our guy, or my guy, Seth Joyner, last week made some comments, or maybe it was early this week, made some comments about Jalen Hurts and some consternation in the locker room, and that has kind of engulfed Jalen Hurts. Let's start with SOT 10, Seth Joyner talking about Jalen Hurts.
How much of this, though, in your opinion, is on Jalen?
It's troublesome because I work with the Eagles insider, and, we had an in-depth conversation last night in our post-game show. And it seems to him that, there's some consternation when it comes to, Jalen, not only in the locker room, but in the organization. And that's problematic because, from the outside looking in, you would never think that. As a coach's son, you would never think that. There's certain things and certain ways that he likes to run things, and there are things that they run in practice that, they get in the game and he goes off on his own tangent. And to me, that's problematic. I would say that it is a...
Are you talking about like the 4th and 6 last week?
Yeah, that.
That's
and,
what we're
and that
pointing
and that and other things. I have it on fact that, the interception that he threw in the first Giants game to Flott on the sideline when A.J. was wide open, that in practice he threw that ball to A.J. a few times. You get in the game and you're not patient enough to wait for it, and you throw the out route, and it almost turns into a pick six. Then last week, the 4th down, they're supposed to run the slant. You look, A.J.'s, Devontae's wide open. You got Dallas on the other side wide open, and you're chucking the ball 60 yards in the air trying to, So, and Devontae confirmed that 1 and 11 made the change on their own. See, to me, that's borderline insubordination when you're not running plays the way that the coach is drawing them up, or you think that you know better than the coach. So he bears a lot of the responsibility. I mean, he wasn't great last night. 50% completion for a guy that's been right around 70 all year. And I get it. He got 3 drops. I get it. But that happens to every quarterback. But there are some plays there
really
to be made that he did not make.
Yep,
that he missed.